I remember watching a Hmong movie. I think it was Shane.
Oh shit. Okay.
And Shane the movie, right?
Yeah, straight up.
So then I'm watching this movie, and I remember my friend's relative came over, and then she was talking, and I didn't really know what she was saying because at that time, right? And now I can translate it because I know what she was saying now. But basically, she was like, "What's up? And what the kid no Shine Hmong movie there? What's up? The Shine Hmong movie? It was just so different for them because they never saw that, and it was my first. Well, it wasn't my first movie, but it was my first time actually sitting down and watching a Hmong Poda movie. You know, and I got freaked out.
I bet you did. And you didn't even know what was going on.
I didn't know what was going on. And so,
Have you seen the movie?
No, I haven't seen that. But a lot of like Hmong Bara movies are scary.
yeah, and then
That was one of the scariest.
Yeah, man, that
I'm
brings
pretty sure
back
I've seen snippets.
memories, dude. And it's actually Hmong movie is just how I actually started to learn how to read and write.
Nice.
It was because of Shai Hmong movie.
Really? That's
That's how, and then I started teaching myself how to read and write, and it's because of that. That's how I learned how to transition from there.
Wow.
Speaking was a little bit more different because I think that Hmong, and people ask me this all the time, like, how do you speak Hmong? Well, we break it down. To the core of Hmong language, it's only about two things: tone, pronunciation. Talk halo, chimeng, at the same time, you speak with a dialect. Your accent will come later, because at that time, accent, then the accent came. But then whenever I say a word and my boy like, no, you say like, you have to say it like this.
Yeah.
And then that's how I did it. And so the more like it came naturally. So what you need think,
that could be a career path too. Just teach Hmong on the side, you know.
Well, I think working as a translator back then, I think I'm done. When I worked at Regents Hospital, I translated. Wow. So, and I was at that time I was a patient financial counselor for Regents, and I was the only one in that group that spoke Hmong. And so, and it's funny because I actually worked with the person who was Hmong, and she didn't even speak it. Come on. And it was so funny because she was like, she would call me. It's like, oh, can you go translate for? I was like, like, no, I don't know how to do it. I was like, all right, I got it. And so when I go up to like the rooms for patients, they would see me, and then when I was like, they get shocked because they're like, what? What did you just say? And then okay. And then they'd be so starstruck, like, oh my God. And then because in Hmong, we have over 1,000 words or something like that. But then if you but there's certain words that is not in the Hmong language. Yeah. So then we have to kind of say it the Hmong way. The Hmong. The Hmong. To make it more simple. Yeah. Especially for right? And I think that's the challenge. But yeah, Hmong is all about tone and pronunciation. If you got those two down, you're going to be fine. And I think that's the foundation of Hmong. It's just when you, like any language, especially because for me, and people don't know this, I was learning Spanish before I learned Hmong. Dang. So, so when I learned Hmong, my Hmong took over my Spanish. So I forgot all that.
You got the bad words.
Actually, no. I started separate. I didn't learn the bad words until after. Yeah, I learned the bad words later down the road. And so, like for me, I didn't learn how to break it up. I had to learn full sentences and break it apart. Yeah. I never got a chance, like how people would learn a second language. They'd be like, oh, I'm going to learn like, or 1, 2, 3, I love you, or something like that. But I had to learn full sentences and then be able to break it down later. Dang. And that was a harder transition for me. Yeah. But I was dedicated. And I remember being 13 and getting into the culture. And I've been in the culture for almost 20 years now. So being 13 and I just felt like I needed to study. I needed to learn about the culture, the history of Hmong, the sacrifice, the challenge, the root of where Hmong people came from. So when I was 13, I went to a library and I just printed out all these books about Hmong culture. Dang. Wow. So many books.
You still got a bunch of them?
Dude.
Damn.
I'm going to need some of that stuff, man.
So, yeah, I printed a lot of books about Hmong culture. I just wanted to really learn who they were. Wow. who Hmong people really were. And I printed out books about the culture, Ving Pao, way back,
How deep did you get, bro? How way back?
We're talking 8 because of it, on both sides, from my African American people to my Hmong people. It's just, I had to find the balance. And that was a very, very hard transition. And I was alone. Nobody could really understand what I was going through because at that time, it just wasn't a thing for a different culture to get into Hmong, especially a Black person to get into the culture. So to break that barrier, that took a lot of time, a lot of years. It wasn't until 06 when I performed at the New Year. That's when things changed.
They're like, oh, hold up now.
That's when that made history. I think that was like the 30-something second or 34th anniversary of
I remember
Hmong
seeing
Year.
it.
And so that was 06, and I was 16 years old and doing something that was going to be culturally explicit, and that was going to be a movement. I didn't know it at the time. I just loved to sing,
Yeah.
But I'm 16. I've never performed in front of a crowd like that, ever.
You were 16 at the time?
Yeah, I was only 16 years old. I was just a sophomore in high
Did you see that video?
Yeah.
You did see it? I think everybody saw it.
Yeah.
And I just remember at that time we didn't have social media. I think we had YouTube had just started,
Yep.
and at that time you could watch anything without ads. Those days.
Oh, the good old YouTube.
And I just remember that when I decided to do that performance, and I go deep about it in my book, but to give you the short version, when I got on stage, it got so quiet. The whole room got really, really quiet.
Yeah.
And I just kind of froze. And I remember closing my eyes, and I swear to God, if Dodgy Minji, I was like, I was like gonna peel myself, like seriously, because I was just like, I was nervous and I was shaking. They got so quiet. And everybody was just looking like, who is this? And then it was like giving me flowers and they're like, oh my God, I can't believe you did this. And you're so famous, you're so cool. I'm like, I wasn't even out there at that time. I was just still trying to get my feet wet into the culture. But I knew that I wanted to do something that was going to be monumental, but it's going to be a memorable thing, It just never happened. It never been done before.
Yep.
And so that changed history for the Hmong people. And I think that kind of opened up doors for them to start getting more used to different races coming in. Mm-hmm. But I knew I had a lot of ground to cover. And it's funny because what people don't know is that the second day that you see on YouTube, that's just the second day. That's not the song that broke it. It was Shooting Star from Paradise, the first day that broke it.
Because the song I saw you sing was...
that was It's Okay.
The
Players.
right?
It's okay. That's the second day. So the first day I sung, the very first song I ever learned was Paradise Shooting Star.
Okay.
Yep. They're actually the reason how I got into singing in Hmong because of them. They're like my idols, And I remember learning that song and going live to perform it. And at that time, we had a YouTube. We had no karaoke Hmong. You kind of had to sing over the voice, and I hated that because we didn't have the karaoke.
They didn't think you were singing.
Yeah, they didn't think I was singing.
Yeah.
And see, I'm a live singer, and I hated singing over the voice. I hated that. I hated because I'm not a lip singer. I sing live, and that just ever since then, it's just been a journey. It's been a really righteous journey in this culture. And I remember one day, I didn't even know the difference between Meng Te Ta.
Okay.
Yeah.
Meng Hanta.
Yep. Meng Te Ta. Yeah. Ta. Yeah.
Da. Yeah.
Yeah. Meng He. I didn't know the difference between that when I was drinking, and so I used to say, "Oh."
How got that?
我個大的 no， 主要啊，係明的 What's the difference? And then when I said that, they gave me another beer, and I did it twice, and I didn't know because I was so used to hearing da as in 打完打沙, it's done.
Yeah.
打
Yeah, 但是有個蛋，你個蛋。
Exactly.
沙漢子。
Like 嗰種在到什麼嗰種學明啊 like you're finished.
Da is pretty much like we say da like there's no more beer.
There's no more beer.
But Ming is like
you're
the cup is
completely
empty.
done.
Yeah.
So learning that difference, and that's why I said there's different. It's about how you pronounce, and it's about how your tone and how you use those phrases. I remember too with that when I was learning Hmong. I used to have a difficult time saying like, and I used to say because I couldn't tell the difference. I was like, well, you're saying it wrong. I was like, what? I said and then no,
you're gonna kill me?
You're gonna kill me? I was like, no, I meant you're stupid. He's like, no, okay. Now I see the difference, but that took a while for me to get down. And that was actually, I think that was my first. Was that my first battling? No. Yeah, my first bad word. I don't want to say it. But yeah, learning that was a struggle. Trying to get those tones and pronunciations down. I think that was the biggest thing. And just hearing, whenever I would say it wrong, my friends would correct me, but they would correct me in a way that I could understand. But I didn't break it up like "gucci-bao" or I just wanted to do like just say it, and then I practice at home on my own. Then I come back, and next minute I know it got so natural for me that I was speaking Hmong so much that I started to forget my English. It became a natural thing for me. And so I remember coming home to my mom. It's a funny story. She was in the kitchen cooking. I come home from playing basketball, and she says, "Son, where are you going?" Oh, I said, and she's like, "What'd you just say?" I'm like, I'm going upstairs. I have a stomach ache. And then it just freaked her out. Now, my intent was, it was to reply back in English, but my Hmong took over so much, it just came out. And I didn't even notice. I was saying it as if I thought my mom knew what I was saying.
Yeah.
And she's like, "Well, what did you just say?" I was like, yeah. I had to really switch it into English. But that's how it was taking over, because I was speaking Hmong on a daily, that it just became a natural thing for me. And I had to catch myself. Some days I really have to catch myself, and I have to break a barrier between, okay, there's a time and place to speak Hmong, there's a time and place where you just can't do it. It's a surprise. I mean, people ne包括啊，但是嘛，当然你包括好多的用哈，当然结果的，that's different.
Was it difficult to learn Hmong?
You want help?
Nhona.
Well, in the beginning, you want help? But
Lushola. Is it the sound, the pronunciation?
let me just do it this way. Hmong is all about tone and pronunciation.
Yes.
Okay? Yeah. So it's because Hmong is so bit more ipa words, more than that.
Right.
Like like stuff like that. But in the beginning, for me, it was hard. It was hard, but I the name I had okay, am I saying this right? Or go
Yeah.
No, practice the
Yeah.
Okay, how do I say this? Because there's so many different tones, and
Right.
it's all about tone here pronunciation. Like I'm tone
Yeah.
that's my guy. Tone that's a tone. Fuck I like I had you not okay. And when I started in the beginning, and for my fans too, because pay more to for my fans, they don't really speak Hmong. So yeah, I just found out that recently. Like my fans,
How does that work?
see, I was performing at a concert, and this they were jamming to it, and I thought that but they didn't know how to speak. I'm like, like, but you have but I don't know what you're saying. Because they're so young, they didn't grow up like that. And so I understand. But in that beginning, it was tough. It was hard. But I had to be very dedicated for my Hmong family and my Hmong people to make sure that I can blend in.
Yes.
Because I barely speak English when so I have to kind of control, because I was learning so much Hmong, my English was going dedication and just being a part of Hmong, and not being afraid, which is so chai, being able to blend in.
Yes.
I was taught the first 2 years.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Back to back.
Yeah.
From pronunciation to tone to just listening. And then I would ask my buddies, how do you say this? Okay.
Yeah.
You say it like this. Okay, I'm practice. But in the beginning, it was not easy.
Right.
It was hard. I just haven't been performing like that, So after I started to get into writing my music, that's when things really, really brought forth. Writing Hmong music, learning how to read and write. I actually learned how to write and read because I watched a lot of Hmong movies. People didn't really know that. They was like, how'd you learn how to read and write? I said, I watched a lot of Hmong movies growing up.
What was your favorite movie? Honestly, I never really watched Hmong movies.
Shit, they don't play.
Okay.
Classic.
Classic,
It's just the classic one. Numplai was a big one, but I love watching Dr. Tong, which I know him very personally, but one of my favorites, you know. But Numplai was the one that we watched a lot growing up. And you know they have the Hmong dubs, you know.
Yeah. A lot of movies that I watched as a kid, I didn't know it was dubbed.
I didn't know that either.
I didn't know it was
until I
dubbed. I
watched it
thought it was
later.
actual Hmong people.
And
all the Chinese movies and stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting in the living room and I was watching this movie. I didn't even know what the hell it's called. And see, at that time, I didn't even know how to speak Hmong.
Okay.
And I'm watching it, thinking that I understand, but I'm just visualizing what they could possibly be talking about.
Yeah.
And so I had the parents in the background, they're just talking, and my buddy's telling me what they're saying about you. I was like, dude, they're saying, oh, we have this black guy watching a movie. That's not something we see every day.
Yeah.
So I just thought it was funny, you know, because it's not something you see every day. But when I started learning the words of Hmong, I was like, damn, what the hell was I watching? You know? But it makes sense because I was able to connect it on a visual point. You know, I think if I didn't see the visual, I wouldn't understood, you know, what was going on.
Right. Because you gotta like at least see what they're trying to say and do to at least imagine what, you know, then you get an idea and then you just gotta go back and learn the words for it, right?
And
That's
then
what you did.
reconnect the dots.
Yeah.
So
Gotcha.
that took some time.